Now I'm going to do one of my Beatles solo albums by John, Paul, George, and Ringo. As you know, a while back I did one of my Beatles albums, and I touched briefly on these. Starting with Paul McCartney, this is a live unplugged album. It's a Russian album, pressed in Russia, of Paul McCartney live in Russia on the Melodia label. I have a couple of these. I have Deep Purple and Doors' Greatest Hits also that are Russian imports from the same label. Pipes of Peace, Paul McCartney. Wings double album, his greatest hits. Wings to me was definitely a fantastic rock band of its time. Still holds on pretty well. Paul McCartney's London Town. This one has a poster. It includes a full-size poster in it. Paul McCartney's London Town. Venus and Mars double album. Wings Over America, if I'm not mistaken, is the first triple live album by a rock band that was issued. Wings at the Speed of Sound. Promo. Red Rose Speedway, Paul McCartney Wins, includes the little sticker there that many albums did at the time. Band on the Run, definitely a classic rock album, a must-have to own. Paul McCartney and Wings of Wildlife, one of his first albums. Love the cover of him, Linda, and the bandmates there just relaxing. Ram, his first album. At this time, if I'm not wrong, the Beatles already had just broken up recently when he released and recorded Ram. After him, we have The Concert for Bangladesh. It's a triple album live. Basically, I put under George Harrison because he was one of the main principals involved in making this a benefit and charity concert for Bangladesh. Has Eric Clapton, Dylan, fantastic musicians playing on it. It's a must-have. Then, of course, his brilliant triple album, All Things Must Pass, where he definitely proved that he was a genius when it comes to songwriting and playing guitar and being a musician. He was very overlooked in the Beatles, unfortunately, but actually he benchmarked an album that is a classic. After that album, we have Electronic Sound. That's a very hard to find album. It's a first pressing on Apple. It's basically what it says, Electronic Sounds. It was pretty avant-garde, if I may use that term, for the time. Pretty odd, but still brilliant to see that somebody like George Harrison would venture out and just change the rules. He did something totally off the wall that many people wouldn't even have imagined, and caught many people by surprise when they listened to this album. Still, it's genius in the way that he did it. Highly recommend listening to it if you can find it on CD or vinyl. Best of George Harrison. George Harrison, Cloud 9, his comeback album produced by Jeff Lynne of ELO, and in a few years he would be also his Travelin' Wilbury bandmate, has I Got My Mind Set on You. Great version that he did of that song. This album is fantastic. Ringo plays on a lot of the tracks also. So it was his quasi, you could say, comeback album. George Harrison, one of his early 70s albums. One thing about him, he's always been very experimental as a great musician. He loved and practiced Hindu music. He was enamored by the, when I say Indian sounds, music, sitar, and all the music of the era. Also, he was a practicing in the religion of the Hindus. George Harrison, as you can see, the cover also indicates his religious beliefs. And of course, John Lennon, The Two Virgins album. And yep, I'm going to pull it out so you can see the actual, there's Milk and Honey, the actual band cover. It does come in a brown paper bag. It was issued by Tetragrammaton in the U.S. in a very limited edition of no more than 5,000 at the time. It was sold in a brown paper bag. But you will see now the official cover, which is the nude version of John and Yoko at the time. And it says, "When two great saints meet, it is a humbling experience. The Long Battles to Prove He Was a Saint. That was written by Paul McCartney. Unfinished Music #1, Two Virgins. On the back cover, well, you know, it's the back sides of John and Yoko. And what is quite beautiful is it has a Bible saying, Genesis chapter 2, and the Lord God caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam, and he slept. And he took one of his ribs and closed up the flesh instead thereof. And the rib which the Lord God had taken from man made he a woman, and brought her unto man. And Adam said, This is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man. Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall both be one flesh. And they were both naked, the man and his wife, and were not ashamed. It caused, of course, great stir and great controversy when it came out. It's just an album of sounds, birds singing, Yoko moaning, pretty avant-garde, pretty nutty at the time. Still very highly collectible. John Lennon, Yoko Ono, Milk and Honey was one of his post compilations when he died. Has a great song called Grow Old With Me, God Bless Our Love. His last album while he was alive, Double Fantasy. It is a classic. I could do without the Yoko songs, but I understand that he was madly in love with Yoko. Imagine is one of the most beautiful songs I've ever heard in my life. I love that song, and the album is fantastic. I don't have the poster that I included on this one, but still it's a wonderful album. His son, Julian, definitely here, he looks just like his dad. Sounds pretty much like his dad. I heard he's still doing some music, but not much. I would love to hear more of his things. And then Ringo, the only one I have is Ringo's Rotogravure. He's got quite a few great albums that he released in the beginning of the post-Beatles in the 70s, and actually, if I'm not wrong, he was the first Beatle to, after a break, have a huge hit. So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed my Beatles solo collection. This is LP Loco. Peace out.